TLC, Tender Loving Care. The time where a creature in ARK gets an overhaul in perhaps appearance or abilities to refresh old hat creatures that just don't quite get used anymore. So far, Wildcard have given us 3 TLC updates, 2 in 2018 and 1 in 2020, refreshing a lot of old creatures to become integral parts of the game we play today. But there's so many more unloved, unused creatures out there that deserve a TLC update, but which deserve it more? You're right kids, it's Raasclark, and yes, as we always do, we did a poll in my community section here on YouTube, and it's certainly worth doing this. There's over 15,000 people that have voted in this poll, and perhaps Wildcard might listen, or perhaps not, but it's worth noting what is the most TLC desired creature in ARK. Lastly, before we jump into it, what's surprising is a lot of the creature abilities you asked for are almost all covered in one particular mod, plainly called Kraken's Better Dinos, which I'm going to use to show an example as we go through this top 10. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share around, and let's get into it. In at number 10, the Araneo, the spider. An obvious entry as it's so underused and just not an appealing creature to anyone, because it's missing one particular feature that a spider should have, the ability to climb walls. Why the Araneo doesn't have this ability I don't know, but it certainly does need this TLC love. As well as that, other suggestions have been to inflict high torpor, perhaps he could passively generate a new narcotic, and maybe create a spider nest type sleeping bag. But in the Kraken's Better Dino mod, it has the ability to jump, as well as bowler creatures with its web, with the bowler and wall climbing abilities, propelling this to be a useful creature, and I certainly would like to see these integrated into the core game. In at number 9, the Diplodocus, the big, weird, long-headed thing that can push stuff around really well, and that's about it. You all said it needs some form of attack, as well of course as a visual upgrade. Perhaps a trample attack would just do the job, and a lot of people asked for a tail whip stun effect, which he actually has in the mod. It's certainly lacking that attack ability, and I really hope we get to see this brought in at some point in time. In at number 8, the Plesio, the ugly, unused, subpar Moser in the sea in ARK, and it really is underused because once you've got a Moser, there's no need for a Plesio. In fact, in most cases, you'll just bypass the Plesio and go straight to the Moser. There's currently no need for this creature apart from being an annoyance in the sea. So firstly, we need to see a remodel, a better looking version, with some great suggestions such as an underwater roar. How about the Plesio becoming the new UT buffer of the sea? I think that would certainly boost it to become a needed creature, and other suggestions such as a grab attack, or to mount the land like a sea turtle, giving more use for that platform saddle. In at number 7, the Terra Bird. That is simply just an annoyance on the beach in the game, although I think it is slightly overlooked at its hover ability, that does have some uses, early on anyway. But I agree it needs better visuals, it needs to be more appealing, perhaps offering a bleed effect with its bite, and the ability to grab small creatures, or perhaps offering an imprint or hatching buff like the Procoptodon, but it certainly needs something to be a more integral creature in the game. In at number 6, and this is a controversial one, the Rock Drake. Now wait there, I know why this made the list. One thing, breeding. Wyverns can now of course breed in ARK, so why can't rock drakes? Why are we still waiting for rock drake breeding to happen? There's no reason for it not to be a thing now, and a lot of you want to see this happen. Again, it's in the Kraken mod. But beyond that, it won the best overall creature vote, so there's really nothing else to change in my opinion. However, some of you suggested perhaps it could have a pounce ability like the Thyla, and a lot of you want to see that glide sound effect being nerfed. In at number 5, the Sabertooth. Now I know what you're thinking, hang on, the Sabertooth got a TLC. Well, it kind of did. In 2017 it got an appearance overhaul, but it's still a non-competitor in the creature versus creature game. So some suggestions have been, give it a bleed effect. It's got sharp teeth, it should be able to bleed, puncture things with its teeth. So perhaps an armor piercing attack, with certainly more damage and perhaps a pounce effect. Although it's got some great weight reductions, it's just lacking versus other creatures. With a final suggestion saying give it a pack buff. So many creatures out there have it already, why not a Sabertooth? In at number 4, the Mosersaw. And it really should get a TLC update. Originally, this was touted as the underwater Giga, and it just lacks something. Above all else, a model rework wouldn't go amiss to make it look a bit more meaner and scarier than it is. It certainly needs to be a bit more faster, with perhaps the ability to go up and down rather than strafe its way down. And being the king of the ocean, it shouldn't be able to be stun locked by the likes of jellyfish and swim right through it. Another great suggestion was for it to have an ult heavy attack. But I think a lot of people have overlooked that this and the next one in this list can be equipped with a tech saddle, making it in my opinion a very versatile creature in the sea. But I can agree, if it's going to be called the Giga of the Ocean, make it the Giga of the Ocean, make it a force to be reckoned with. In at number 3, and this was the most controversial one, the Megalodon. Because it already recently had a mini TLC, whereby it was given a pack buff and the ability to bleed out dinos. But the most popular reason as to why this is so high on this list is its appearance. It's too small. A Megalodon should be 4 or 5 times the size of the current one we've got in the game. At least according to you kids. But I do agree, it's just a little too not menacing. It needs to be a bit faster, and other suggestions were for it to have a tail whip or some form of buff when it kills its prey. In at number 2, and it was a popular one, the Quetzal. And I fully agree, since the RG TLC and the Carcinos have been in ARK, the Quetzal that once was one of the most important creatures in ARK has now been left by the wayside, more so a luxury or statement that you own one. But there's no real need to have one anymore. So let's first give it a model redesign. Let's give it a weight reduction ability. It should be able to pick up 2 things, one in each claw, and it needs to be a bit faster with a slightly larger platform saddle, both of which were of course covered in this Kraken mod. A wing flap like a wyvern wouldn't go amiss, and a great suggestion that I like is for the Quetzal to possess a side cannon tech saddle. Think a bit like the Astrocetus, making this the go-to air cannon. But of course that was number 2, so there is something in the number 1 spot. And before we get to that, let's just go through the creatures that didn't just make the cut. And adding my personal suggestion, how about this? The Tech Griffin. Why not? I'd certainly love to see a tech version of the Griffin. Something that obviously has a better visual appearance, but just gives it a few more levels to be a better competitor against the likes of Manners, to be the king of the sky. So in at number 1, and my word, this one by a milestone, the Brontosaurus. It really is the most underused creature in ARK. Barely anybody owns these anymore. Where it once was seen as somewhat of a tank and a berry farmer has now been superseded by so many other creatures. So the suggestions are, of course, a better appearance, make it a more attractive creature, but it certainly is in dire need of a good attack. Simply a stomp attack would do the job, where of course this is again integrated into the Kraken mod. But I'd certainly like to see the attack that the Brachy's got in the ARK Additions mod, where it rears up on its 2 back legs and comes down with an almighty crash that perhaps you can't use all the time, maybe when the Bronto's enraged, creating a devastating attack. Other great suggestions were for it to be an automatic trough and giving it more weight to be a viable mobile base. But the Bronto, it needs some love, and you all want to see this one more importantly than any other creature in ARK. Wildcard, I hope you're listening, I hope you watch this video and take this feedback into consideration. Thanks all for watching. What did you think? Drop a comment below, let me know. What more top 10s would you like to see? Start thinking about what you're looking forward to in Genesis Part 2, because we are 1 month away now, and I want to see what you're looking forward to more in Genesis Part 2. Perhaps it's just that, a top 10 on Genesis Part 2. We'll have to wait and see, but comment below, I really want to know. My name's Raasclark. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and as always, peace out.